Alright guys, what we have is our 1 gallon milk jugs. They're 6 inches wide or thick. Typically what we see is about the penetration through these jugs is about 1.5 times that of ballistics ordnance gel. So Hornady's literature states, I believe, 9 to 10 inches for the 60 grain vmax. We will see if that equates the same in the jugs. That should be roughly 2 jugs of penetration. It may or may not enter the third, but I don't expect to see any hit on the back wall of the third, if it even enters the third. We'll see. And pretty much what I expected. We destroyed 2 jugs completely. It looks like we got some, hard to tell if we got penetration to the back of the jug or not. I know the slug is in there, or the pieces are in there, fragments, I can hear that, but we didn't get penetration to the third jug. That's virtually exactly what I expected, was 2 jugs of penetration. That matches up with Hornady's literature. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to try the number 4 buckshot. Now, what I want you guys to remember is some people think number 4 buckshot is a little too light for use against human aggressors. So we're going to compare its penetration characteristics to the 60 grain vmax. And what I want you to keep in mind when you see this is if you say, oh, well, there's rounds that are lighter than the 60 grain, that I can reduce my penetration in walls more. And keep that in mind whenever you see the penetration of this number 4 buckshot, and understand that some people actually consider it to be a little on the light side. I don't, not for home defense. For tactical use or law enforcement or outdoor use, yes, I'd rather have number 1 buck or double aught. But for in-home use, where your distances are going to be no more than maybe 30 feet or so, number 4, I feel, and we'll find out. I may have to eat my words. It looks like we do have a little crack right here on this jug. I just noticed this. So we did get the complete, but nothing entered the jug. Okay, so we got no entry into the jug, but look, so we did get 2 full jugs of penetration. That'd be 12 inches, which that actually lines right up with Hornady's literature on the penetration in ballistics gel. So I want to add a couple more jugs here, and we're going to try that number 4 buck and see if we get more or less. I'm anticipating more, but again, I may be surprised and proven wrong. Alright guys, we're going to fire the number 4 buck. I've added some more jugs up there. We're going to do this from about 10 feet so that we get our pattern. We don't have anything skipping off to the sides. It might kind of skew our results, and we don't want to be too close so that they're not all impacting one on top of the other. But we're about, right here, we're about 10, 11 feet or so. That should be sufficient to spread out the pellets to where they're not stacked on top of each other, and keep them all inside the jug. Okay. As you can see, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jugs up here, and we have penetrated into the 4th jug with multiple pellets. You see she's leaking. Several pellets completely penetrated jug 3. There's quite a few pellets inside of there, so I would think that the majority of the payload is going to penetrate between 3 and 4. That would coincide pretty much with exactly what most of the literature you read about would show. That would be 18 to 24 inches. Actually, no, we didn't get any that reached the back, and we see some actually just bouncing off. So between 18 and probably about 20 inches or so of penetration in water, which would equate right around the, between 12 inch to maybe 14 inches in a ballistics ordnance gel. So for those of you who say number 4 buck is too light for use against human aggressors at a home defense distance, keep this in mind. The 60 grain vmax only penetrated 2 jugs, whereas this actually penetrated into the 4th. So keep that in mind. Keep in mind also if you're going to go lighter than like a 60 grain vmax. My personal pick from the rounds I've tested so far would be a 75 grain bolt tail hollow point if I was using 223. It did fragment in the walls, although it still did exit, but it was great. That exit velocity and mass was greatly reduced. I know the effects of that round from deer hunting with it, and that round does offer a little deeper penetration, but not too much. So keep all this in mind when you see this. I think I'll go ahead, if I have enough jugs left, I'll put the 5.45, the 55 grain soft point through, because the 60 grain VMAX essentially performs identical, whether it's 5.45 or 5.56. So I'll try that 55 grain soft point just to see how it performs. Okay guys, this will be the 5.45. This is the 55 grain WPA soft point. We've got 4 6-inch jugs up there. So we'll see if this, how far this makes it. Our VMAX for the 5.56 223 penetrated 2 jugs and bounced off a third. We'll see if this matches that or exceeds that. I'm actually kind of hoping it exceeds it, because I really think that's a little shallow on penetration with the VMAX. And I know the 5.45 variant has performed identical to the 5.56 variant in terms of the VMAX. Our number 4 buck gave us 4 jugs of penetration. Didn't reach the back wall of the 4th, but into the 4th jug. And I know the HST round for the 9mm, I'm not going to test it here, but I can tell you there's plenty of literature on it, and it should penetrate a good 4 jugs, because that puts you solidly in the 12 to 14 inch range, and that's about what I would expect out of a good duty handgun load, and I would hope to see that out of the rifle loads as well. You know, our goal here is to try to reduce some penetration inside of building material. The VMAX certainly did that in comparison to the handgun. Full metal jackets did not in comparison to handguns, so we're not even going to worry about those, because those aren't meeting our criteria. And this 55 grain soft point seemed like it performed similar to the VMAX, so we'll see if we get similar results in this, or if we get a little deeper penetration in the fluid material, since it performed reasonably well in the wall test, which if you haven't watched that video, please go back and do so, and you can get a better understanding of what all we're doing here. Okay, so I can already see 2 jugs have been obliterated, and it looks like we have penetration into, and it stopped in the 3rd jug, and it's actually in the back of the 3rd jug, so it looks like, yeah, it made it to the back. I don't know that it bulged the back, can't really tell, but it did completely penetrate to make it well into the 3rd, and that is greater penetration. The VMAX also looks like it held together better, so I'm actually pretty pleased with this this round so far. This is looking like a sleeper, so to say. It's not very expensive. It doesn't have the low flash propellant that the VMAX has, and the feed profile of it's a little funky, and you may need to test that in your weapons if you decide to use this. I haven't had any issue with it, but it is something to be aware of. But I'm going to go ahead and get that round out of there. I'll start the camera back up. I'm going to go ahead and get that round out of there before this camera overheats, and we'll take a look at it. Okay guys, my camera overheated, so I have to let it cool down a bit, so we'll do a brief overview here of what exactly occurred. So I recovered all that was remaining in the jugs, and what we have here is the remainder of the VMAX round. It's nothing more than a piece of the jacket, and of course that was found in the 2nd jug, the back of the 2nd jug. It actually dented and kind of cracked the 3rd jug, but it didn't enter. It was just enough for us to just sort of crack it. But that's pretty much it. That's what you have left. Once the initial expansion is done and all, that's what you have penetrating through. And the reason I'm showing you this, I want you to understand this. This is the 55 grain soft point. These were all found at the back of jug 3, so we had a fairly significant more material actually penetrated through, and it penetrated deeper, so that's kind of interesting in this round. What I can tell you is it doesn't have the low flash propellant, and it doesn't have the feed profile of the VMAX. Of course, I'm speaking in terms of the 5.45. This was actually the 223 VMAX, but I've tested these before, and actually these perform virtually identical. They're both 60 grain, they're both the same construction, both virtually the same velocity. They almost perform identical. So I was actually pleased with this round from a terminal point of view. It gave a little deeper penetration, which I like to see, because we're already dealing on the shallow side. It also fragmented into the wall, although all of them did exit the walls except number 4 buck. Both the VMAX and this one exhibited some fragmentation in the wall that did reduce the downrange impact on the berm behind us. The VMAX also did demonstrate the reduced penetration compared to the handgun in the wood material. So I would definitely say either the VMAX or the 55 grain soft point would be the loads of choice for the 5.45 in home defense. The full metal jackets just seem to penetrate too much, at least for my taste. Your mileage may vary. Again, we're speaking home defense. We're not speaking of outdoor use or the end of the world kind of scenario. And the reason I wanted you to see these fragments and what penetrates through is, I lost a piece there, is because the number 4 buck, which some people consider to be a little on the light side for personal defense, I found 6 pellets in the back of jug 3 and 7 in jug 4. The rest seemed like they skipped off to the side, kind of bounced off the side of the jugs and went out. But this is the mass that actually penetrated through in comparison to, say, the VMAX or the 55 grain, and there was a piece of jacket on that fell on the ground. But you can see more mass actually penetrated deeper, which in theory is going to have a higher potential lethality and ultimately stopping your target. Now, that being said, I do know the explosive effect of these high velocity rounds at close range. It can be quite devastating, and I'm not discounting that. As I said, I would pick either the 55 grain soft point or the 60 grain VMAX for the 5.45 as my home defense load. Personally, for the 5.56, I think I'll stick with the 75 grain bolt tail hollow point, just because again, I've used that to hunt deer. I know what its effects are. It did exhibit fragmentation in the wall, although it penetrated through, but that reduced its downrange effect in comparison to full metal jackets and the bonded bullets, which held a lot more together and kept going. And number 4 buck performed extremely well. This out of this shotgun from home defense distances, it didn't penetrate too deeply in the walls. It didn't make it out of our exterior wall anyway. It penetrated well in our fluid media. So overall, I would definitely say that these are kind of my takeaways from this. Your mileage may vary. I do encourage you to do testing on your own. Make sure you share that with us if you can. And also keep in mind, if some of you are seeing these rounds punching all the way through and exiting out of these walls, you think, man, I need to get a lighter bullet than that so I can have even less penetration. You know, keep in mind what you're seeing here. As I said, some people consider this number 4 a little on the light side for use against human aggressors, and these little lightweight or these fragmenting type rifle rounds penetrated less. So keep that in consideration. We're already on the borderline as far as penetration actually into our target to reach a terminal depth. So hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was found it interesting and helpful. This actually got spurred on. There was some discussion going on about shotguns versus rifles versus handguns and the danger of over-penetration. They spoke mainly of buckshot over-penetrating, which of course they always talk about double-aught buck. They act like there's no other buckshot but double-aught buck. And of course the rifles they claim produce less penetration than handgun, which if loaded properly, we did see that here. However, if loaded improperly, we saw greater penetration in some of our tests. So keep that in mind. You have to load, just like the shotgun, the rifle, you have to load these properly in order to achieve whatever the desired effect you're looking for. You may actually be looking for that greater penetration through barriers and stuff. So if that's the case, again, make sure you test your ammunition, because you may be pleased or you may be disappointed in the results that you get. Alright guys, don't forget to subscribe, like the videos if you like what you see, share. If you have any links to any other tests like this, if you want to share that information so that we can compare results and see if we're getting similar results to what others are getting, then feel free to do so. Again, we have some more tests planned here in the future, so make sure you stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.